Hello, cruel world. This is Jerry Hawthorne, the designer and creator of Mice and Mystics. And why aren't you listening to the Not Suitable for Worker Placement podcast? Go now and listen to it.
Wait, what is this shit?
Not safe for f***ing worker placement podcast.
I flipped the board. I despise that game. Oh, shit. That sounds like... Oh, wait. Hello and welcome to the 11th episode of the Not Suitable for Worker Placement podcast.
Whoa. The what?
The Not Suitable.
Not suitable?
Yeah.
I guess that will all make sense whenever you hear the interview later today.
Just roll with it, baby.
We've just changed our name. No biggie.
No biggie.
All right. Welcome to the Not Suitable for Work Placement podcast.
A board game podcast brought to you by me, Leandra.
And me, Ben.
We're married and we're here to talk shit about board games.
We're here to cough shit about board games.
He's got strep throat.
So I get to be the sniffly, weird sounding one this time, huh, babe?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Normally you guys are used to listening to Leandra talk through her nose. Well, today it's my turn. I got the yearly strep throat that I get every single year. Interesting fact I learned today from the doctor that I'm probably a carrier of strep. But everyone is a carrier of strep, she said. But I'm a carrier of type A strep,
Ooh.
which is the kind that gives you strep throat. The other kinds are kind of innocuous. They don't do anything. They don't flare up in you. And then I also learned that if you leave strep untreated, it can move into your heart and your kidneys and cause real problems.
I had no idea.
I didn't know that either. Because I get strep every year of my life, probably since I was like 8. It's super annoying. And then
This is like the big test. Like, we had Lily's tonsils taken out in May and her adenoids. So with you being home and in the house with strep throat, because she would have already gotten it by now, because
I hope,
horrible.
anyway.
So this is a big test to see if that surgery was worth it or not.
Yep, I hope so. I hope she doesn't get it. You're a lot more resistant to it than
Yeah, I
she
am.
is. So.
You guys are just weenies.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm a carrier. I'm like patient zero. So anyway, that's why I sound totally weird, and I will continue to sound totally weird this whole time and probably get worse as we go. But we are a board game podcast. Lest us not forget.
Yes.
Or lest we forget, or however that goes.
No clue.
What we do every week is, well, first we do plugs. We're going to plug all of our stuff. We have NSFWP Facebook page. We have at NSFWP podcast on Twitter. And you can find all those things and more, links to iTunes and all the ways to download at www.nsfwppodcast.com. So get on there and check it out. We have a little news to update before we even talk about what we've been playing, actually. We ran a contest on the last episode.
Yes.
Mystery solving contest to give away a couple of games. And we had a listener, Matthew Hart, solved the mystery. And not only did he solve it perfectly. So what we were going to do was give away to anyone who just tried, if then we would randomly draw. But if they got the mystery solved correctly, then we would give them both games. He got it correct. After it took him about 6 or 7 questions, I think, total. But he was on it from the beginning, kind of like you were. He pretty much had it figured out. So the result of that, the actual answer was that, let's see if I can remember their names. So I don't have it in front of me.
Wasn't
it was like
Pat and Mike?
Pat and Mike. Yeah, Pat was blind. So the scenario was that Pat killed Mike, or he was planning to kill Mike with a frying pan. And then the neighbor finds them both dead later on. One dead by with a flattened head, and then the blind guy Pat just dead in the chair next to him, right? And then there was a piece of paper on the table. Well, what it was that Pat planned to kill his brother Mike because he was tired of him, not taking good care of him or whatever, and he was going to smash him with the frying pan. So he knew that Mike would be there because he sits in the chair every night and watches TV. And he thought nobody would ever blame the blind guy. So I don't really know how he thought he would get away with that. But anyway, So he smashes him in the head, right? But what he didn't know is that Mike was already dead because Mike was super depressed. He had broken up with his girlfriend, and he was tired to take care of his brother who didn't show him any respect. And so he had poisoned his bourbon and drank it sitting in his chair and died. So he was already dead. So then Pat sits down, job well done, killed his brother, he thinks, and drinks the bourbon and then dies right there. The note that was on the table was a suicide note from Mike, which Pat could not read because he was blind. And so to solve it, you would have to figure out all those things that happened and that Pat was blind. That was the hardest thing to figure out. So I gave the requisite clues that needed to be given, and Matthew Hart figured it out. So he was the proud winner of Rolling America and Broom Service the card game. Congratulations,
job,
Matthew.
Matthew.
Woo, woo, woo. I used to play D&D with Matt online for a little while. He's a good dude. All right. Well, now on to what we've been playing. What have we been playing, babe?
Well,
Nothing. No.
Yeah, that's not true.
I played a bunch of games without you.
You
that's
have.
for sure.
You have.
So I'm going to run down a few of those. I'm not going to talk about everything. I'm going to talk about the highlights. And I'm just going to give a quick, what they are and then a thumbs up or thumbs down. I played with a friend of mine, Matt, and Vaughn one night. They came over, and Matt brought a few new games. He always has new stuff when he comes over. He had gotten the Kickstarter version of Fate of the Elder Gods, which is a new Cthulhu game from, I do believe it's Richard Launius was one of the designers on it. And it is an area control game. It's got a lot of cool little miniatures and stuff, a lot of plastic pieces. It's basically a round area control board where you basically are putting down your pieces to try to take over these certain spots. But in order to move to different places, you have to use cards that have symbols on them to move. And then you can get these other cards that work off of those symbols that you're putting down to move around. You're putting them on the outside of the board. And whenever certain combinations of those symbols get put out on the board, you can trigger your spells that you've put out. And then those do things. And it's a lot of take that back and forth. I take guys off of a spot anywhere on the board I want and move my guys in or stuff like that. And every spot that you go to has an ability, whether or not you control it or not. So if you just have a guy there, you can do an ability. But if you have control of it, you can do a better ability. And Matt cleaned up pretty good on it because he knew what all the spots did, and you can kind of get a little engine working. Vaughn and I were slow to get going. As soon as I got going, the game was over. Like I had figured out an engine where I could move up my track pretty fast, but because it's a race. You got victory points you're trying to get to. And once you get to those, then you win. But I think I'd like to try it again. Problem with it is, if you didn't kickstart it, if you want to go buy it, it costs $80.
Whoa.
Just for the base game. And I mean, it's got plastic pieces and stuff, but to me, it's not worth $80. So
that's a lot.
Yeah, until it goes on sale or something, I can't imagine picking it up because he got it and the expansion that comes with it for I think the Kickstarter was maybe $80 or something like that. And then now you're paying $80 just for the base game, and it's another $30 for the expansion. So I would not pay that for it. It wasn't that good. You know what I mean? But it was an interesting little game. And that same night, he brought over Magic Maze, which Magic Maze is a really cool game. Let's see. The theme is fantasy adventurers in a mall trying to get their fantasy gear and get out in time. Sounds
interesting.
Yeah, it's a weird theme. But what it is basically you have colors of pawns, 4 colors. I think there's orange, blue, purple, and I don't know, let's say yellow. I can't remember. And you have everybody gets a tile that gives them an action. And all you can do is that action. So you basically get your action and get your tile, and then you flip over a couple of cards, and then those cards will then have spots where you can go to and explore with the different colors. Like if there's a yellow explore symbol, you have to get the yellow guy there, and then you can put another card down. And the whole thing is to put out all these cards until you find each person's weapon, and then there's an exit for each one. So everything's tied to the colors. There's an explore color for each color, an item that you're trying to get for each color, and an escape for each color. And what you're trying to do is get those items and escape. So you got to explore the whole board, and all you can do is that one action. Like your action might be move left, and that's all you can do. You can move anybody left, but you can just move left. Or it might be move up and go over across escalators. Or it might be move right and down. So all in all, all of you will be able to move up, down, left, right, and move over elevators and stuff, or escalators, but no one person can do that. So once everybody gets their tile, you flip over a timer. It's like, I think it's 3 minutes, and you just start going. And it's like, you can't talk. At that point, you can't talk. All there is there's one big red pawn. And if you want somebody to do something, all you can do is like bang it in front of them, like get their attention. That's it. You're not supposed to point at the board or do anything else. So if they're looking at the purple guy that obviously needs to go left to explore, I've got to be looking at the purple guy, yellow guy, see who can move left and who wants to move left, if that's all I can do, or who needs to move up and to the right. And they can go as far as they want, you know what I mean? Like I can go left all the way to the edge of a card or up as far as I want and then right, So you're doing that and trying to coordinate. So if I can move up, but somebody else can move left, I need to move the guy up and they need to move him to the left to get to the explorer. And then the person that can go to the escalator has got to move over, the escalator. And you keep doing that and exploring all over. And it's really fun. But quickly, we started out on the first level, got up to like the fourth level, and I had been drinking beer all night. And man, I'll tell you, my wits were much slower than those two guys who were completely sober. And after that fourth one, it just got to be so chaotic because they keep throwing in like different tiles. You add different tiles that have more confusing stuff. Like you'll have to rotate actions after every time you flip the thing. So there's also a time marker. If you get to the time marker on the board, you can flip the thing back over and you get a second to talk. Like you can talk for a minute and then flip it back over and start the time thing again. Very interesting. But I was killing us bad at that point. I was like, we did it like 3 times the fourth level. And I was like, guys, I'm too drunk for this. There's no way we're going to get past, because I would be staring at, I would be moving. They'd be putting that red pawn in front of me, just like, boom, like, what are you doing? And I'm looking, I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do. I thought I moved. And then I'm like, oh, that guy's purple. I thought he was blue. So yeah, I was definitely failing them on that, but it's a super fun game. I'm going to pick that up sometime. I think you'd really like it. But man, it got hectic after that. And then we played some games with your sister. She came over and had a game night, and and Vaughn. We invited Vaughn over. So what did we play?
We played Viticulture.
Yeah, you'd been wanting to introduce LaToya to that, right?
Yes, yeah. It's one of my faves, and I never win anymore. But she seemed to like it.
Yeah, I think she did.
Her and I tied. I think her and I were like 1 point different. Vaughn won again, right?
Yeah, Vaughn won. I thought I was going to catch him at the end, but he got all the stars on that territory map. Yeah. Because we played with we always play now with the Tuscany map. We didn't play with everything that we had unlocked as far as the Tuscany stuff.
We've still not ever played with the cheese.
No, that was supposed to be the one, because I'd won the last game, and that's what I picked to put in this time. We didn't do that, but because we didn't even use the structures in this game.
Yeah, well, because it was Toya's first time, so it was best not to make it go terribly crazy. But she seemed to enjoy herself. I think she liked it. Yeah,
she just kept saying, "I just got to get it all down," and by the end, she was, everybody was delivering wine, and I think it took longer for everybody to ramp up in that game for some reason. Like usually, I get an engine going. If I'm going to do well in that game, I usually start early. But in this one, it took me like half the game to even get close to getting one one delivery done. And then once I did that, I could do a couple more. But yeah, Vaughn came on, and Vaughn did he ever deliver?
No, remember he kept on stealing all of Toya's stuff.
That's right. He had these cards. He got a couple of the visitor cards that allowed him to steal other people's
everyone else's harvest.
Oh yeah, what he was doing is he was delivering wine, but what he wasn't doing was planting. He only ever planted 2 vines in the whole game. He had this one card that allowed him to steal from LaToya, who had planted a bunch of grapes. She had all of her fields full.
Yeah.
And he was able to harvest one of hers, and then he got another card that allowed him to get that card back. So he did it again later. Yeah.
He was totally using his special powers, and that's how he won, because he really cheated. I mean, really, that's really what
you call that cheating.
He won by cheating. He won by stealing.
Yeah, well, he's a thief, but he was stealing it within the rules of the game.
He won by stealing, and that's not honorable. So
but it's not cheating.
Well, it may not be cheating, but it is stealing. Therefore, he did not win honorably.
Oh, well, I'll definitely give him a dishonorable win. That's for
I
sure.
agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Vaughn is a dirty scoundrel. So after that, we tried another one that we talked about a little bit in the last episode with her. Which one's that, babe?
Sagrada.
Sagrada.
I pronounced it right and everything.
You did. And I falsely said last time when we were talking about that and like comparing it to Rolling America, and I said, well, in Sagrada, you can pretty much always figure out a way to fill up your board. There's not too many times. Not for me in that game. It went bad from the beginning.
Like the second move, you were like, shit, what do I do?
Yep. I had to use up all of my, we all did 5. We all did the hardest boards that you can do.
Quick recap. Sagrada is the one where the boards look like stained glass windows, and you have all the dice, and you have to, and you get to pick a little map, and you have to fill the dice to go with the colors of the maps, that kind of stuff. So just a quick recap on that. So, and you can't have the same color dice touching, and you can't have the same numbers touching. And so Ben's very first draw, he put his dice down somewhere. And then the second draw, he was like the last player to be able to pick from the dice that were drawn. And he couldn't play anything. Like nothing that was left out for him to choose from worked with the one dice he'd have just played, one only dice he had played on his little card.
So I had to play one of my tool things, my little glass beads to use a tool. And I think by like the 4th turn, I had used up all of mine. Yeah. So I had 5, so I used up all of them. And I was able to, I only had 1 blank space, I think, at the end. Because Vaughn had 2.
You had more than
one.
No,
I think I only had 1. Vaughn had 2. I think I only had 1 blank. Maybe 2. I can't remember, but.
Who won?
Latoya.
Was it Latoya?
Yep, she definitely did. Yeah, I scored terribly in that game. And I was like, I always thought, there's always a way to manipulate it to where it was, where you're able to at least fill up your thing. Maybe you don't score as many points, but no. Because Vaughn ran into big trouble in that one, too, really fast. I still like the game. It's great.
I do, too.
It's a great little puzzle game. So that's Sagrada by Floodgate Games. And then the only game I've picked up in the last couple weeks was, been waiting for it for a while, was Rhino Hero Super Battle.
Oh, that's right.
And Rhino Hero is one of my favorite little dexterity games. Lily loves it. So I knew when Rhino Hero Super Battle was coming out that it would be a hit. And here to talk a little bit more about that is Lily. Hi, sweetheart. How you doing?
Good.
You doing good? All right. We played a game this weekend, didn't we?
Yep.
What is it?
Rhino
Hero Super Battle, maybe?
Yeah.
That's the one. All right. How do you play Rhino Hero?
There's 3 cards that you have to pick out one, and you start out with 3, and then you pick one of them, and if it has, if it has a long one and a short one, you're gonna put them on the base with the yellow circles.
Those are the walls, right?
Yeah.
The wall pieces, and your card tells you which ones to put on.
Yeah.
Well, like you build your walls, right? Like you put them down on the yellow circles, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And then you have to put your card that you played on top, right? Like balance it, either on 2 or even on 1, right? You got to balance it. And then if it's got spider monkey, you have to hang it from that card, right?
Yeah, you have to hang it only from that card, but not from the other cards because it's the card that says the spider monkey.
Yep. And then what do you do after that? After you put your card, you got to roll a dice, right?
Yeah.
A die.
And if it says like 1 or 3, that's how many rooms you go up.
How many levels?
But if it
it's got a -1, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And that makes you go down one level, right?
It says -1.
Yep. And then what if we keep doing that for a while, right? Back and forth.
Yeah.
And then we're building it up, and it can go, like you can build bridges between pieces, and then you can build up, or you can build sideways, or however, as long as you don't knock over the tower. And whoever's highest on the tower gets a little token, right?
Yeah, it's like golden.
Yep, and it shows that you're the highest. That way, if it falls down and you didn't knock it down, you know who won.
Yeah.
But say you move, right? You roll your die and you get 3, And then, but I'm 3 ahead of you, so you jump up 3 levels, and then we're on the same level. What do you have to do then?
You have to fight, so one person gets 1 dice and the other person gets the other dice, and whoever gets the farthest up,
The highest roll?
they win. They
Yep.
win that round.
And then
but
so they get to stay on that level, and the other person has to get kicked down a level, right?
Yes.
And then if they get kicked down a level, like if you play with more than 2 people, if they get kicked down a level where there's somebody else, they have to fight them all over again. So you could end up going all the way down doing that. Yeah, it's crazy. And then the whole point of the game is to build the tower and not knock it over yourself, right?
Yeah, because if you knock it over yourself, then you're the loser.
Yep.
But if the other person does it, you're not the loser. You're
That's
the winner.
right. That's right. And
Even if you're on the bottom, you're
That's
still
right.
you're still the winner.
That's right. And we built we used up every single card in there, didn't we?
Yes.
Yep. It was 12 stories high, and it never fell over, did it?
No.
And who won?
Me.
You did. Awesome. So did you like this game?
Yes, I loved it very much.
And then after we were done playing, you said you just wanted to play with the cards and build your own stuff, right?
Yeah, I just but first I like watching this show called Richie Rich, and I really wanted to make a really cool mansion that was kind of based off of it. So I kind of did that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you even used the box and stuff to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you did some really inventive stuff there. Well, I'm really glad you like that game, and I want to play it again with you really soon, okay?
Okay.
Well, thanks for talking to me about it.
Thanks.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
We seriously have the cutest little girl ever.
Yeah, we do.
She's so freaking cute.
She's a sweetie.
Oh my gosh. Earlier, she's almost 9, and she was in the shower earlier, and she was just talking to herself, and you came up and you're like, "What? Who is she talking to?"
I thought she was doing a YouTube show in the shower. That's what she likes to pretend to do, but
No, she was playing with her Barbies and using her imagination. It makes my heart so happy to hear her still be a little kid, still playing with her babies. And
she had a little Barbie Salon going
she
on in the shower.
did. I loved it so much. She was washing their hair.
Yep, she's a good kid.
Our little baby. Okay, so moving on from our precious little girl. Last Sunday, we were able to stay home all day, and it was my turn to pick the game. And I picked Mice and Mystics.
Woohoo!
Yes.
We've been wanting to get a game of this in for a long time anyway, but we always need all day to play it. That's what we've decided, that we pretty much need a whole day to play a game. And yeah, we were told that's not supposed to really
By
happen.
the man himself, we were told.
Yeah, we knew we were going to get to interview Jerry Hawthorne, the designer of Mice and Mystics, and so we wanted to get a game in before we talked to him, just so that it was all fresh in our minds and we could remember how much we love it. And yeah, we informed him that, well, you'll hear it in the interview, that it takes us so long, and he's like, well, as long as you're having fun, it doesn't really matter. But
It's only supposed to take like 90 minutes. Whoops.
yeah, right. I don't know how you could play it in 90 minutes, but you can't play it and savor it like we do.
Yes, we do,
in that
baby.
amount of
We
time.
just chew on it. And
So we never really, we've professed our love for Mice and Mystics before, but we've never really talked in depth about it. So since we're going to talk about family games, and we've got an interview with Jerry right after this, let's get a little bit in depth on Mice and Mystics. So the basic premise of Mice and Mystics, the story behind it, is that you're a kingdom, you're like a medieval, let's say, times a kingdom.
1800s, honey?
No, way before that. 1300s. And you're a castle, you're a bunch of people in a castle, right? And then this evil sorceress, Venestra, seduces the king and then casts a spell and turns everyone into mice and a few other creatures. And so basically the prince becomes a mouse, and the medical woman becomes a mouse. The blacksmith becomes a mouse. And I guess the local thief becomes a mouse. Filch. I guess he was just a thief. I'm not sure what he was before. But anyway, so then you have to figure out what happened and try to figure out how to change everyone back. So the king is in like a coma, and so it's up to the prince to gather everyone up and figure out the mystery of how to change everyone back to humans and stop Venestra, right? That's pretty much the basic plot. And also all of her, turns out she got turned into an animal, a spider, and all of her henchmen got turned into rats too.
Damn rats.
So this is really this spell got away from her, I guess. But talk a little bit about how you play Mice and Mystics, babe.
Well, it's you build up your character. So you have set characters, and they come with, usually like one weapon each. And then as you get more kill more guys, and you get more cheese. You get cheese whenever you kill guys, or you get from filch anyway, or you just roll on the dice. And then you can level up, and then you have all these different kinds of options of cards to use as powers or weapons, or you find stuff, and it's just wonderful. It's just a fun little game. Like,
it's a dungeon crawler.
It's a dungeon crawling game where you find stuff, or you level up, and you just keep on building up your characters, and everyone's big and bad, and then of course then the chapters get bigger and better, and so. We play 2 players at a time usually, and each chapter recommends one player at least. This chapter requires this player for whatever reason. It could be
because it's story. Because the cool thing is it's all story based, and so every scenario is basically tells a chapter in the story, and you have your tiles set up preset at the beginning of play. So maybe there's 3 tiles involved, or 4 tiles, or 5 tiles involved in this chapter. And the really cool thing is, like, each tile, you think, well, that's not a very big map on your table, but almost every tile has this one spot where you can flip it as an action. You can flip it, and sometimes you have to, because the only way to get from tile to tile is if they connect with certain colors, like they've got little colors on their border. And if they don't match colors with any of the tiles that are connected to them, then you have to flip it in order to get to the next section. And what's really cool is that's used in the story, where like there's one where you're in a room and you're fighting, and then the flip spot is like a grate. And so you flip it, and then you go through the grate, but you fall into water, running water. And then you have to, there's mechanics for moving and running water before you go down the big drain and gets lost in the sewers. And so, it's really, every tile is really thought about the way they designed it, about how they fit together and how they can make a story out of it. So that's what I think is really cool about it, is that everything in the game is for a purpose. And it's really beautiful artwork, everything's hand painted, and it's just very like kind of a dark setting, which is what I like. It's like, a light idea because you're just little mice running around, but everything seems like perilous and dangerous,
it does.
Because everything's dark and dank.
And then of course, you pimped out the game, and you painted all the little miniatures, and then you made, the mice's worst enemy is Brody the cat.
Yeah, the cat.
And so had we known about Brody the cat, we would have named Elliot, our horrible cat. His name would have been Brody.
I'm pretty sure we've said that before.
We have, but it's true.
Yep.
So, you've pimped this game out, which just makes it even more fun,
Yeah,
and
it's a beautiful game when you're playing. It looks really cool. I've wanted to go further. I've looked into like getting like the 3D printed cheese and stuff, because cheese is like the experience. Well, the cheese works really cool in this game.
But don't ruin it, because Jerry talks about that on the interview.
Yeah, but he explains where it came from.
Oh,
I'm going to explain how it works. So like cheese comes in a lot of different ways in the game. Mostly it comes from when you're rolling the dice. The dice are ingenious in this game because they're multi-use. So say you're doing an attack that's that's like a melee weapon. So I've got the prince, and I'm going to do a sword attack, right? So if on my player card my attack value is my melee attack value is 2, that means I roll 2 dice, right? So the dice have symbols that are melee hits and ranged hits, and sometimes they have 2 melee hits, and they also have shield symbols, and they have cheese. So like if I roll a hit, however many hits I roll on my 2 dice, that's how many hits I'm doing to the enemy, and the enemy then has defensive dice, and they roll however many defensive dice. So the stronger they are, the more defensive dice they have, and then any shields that they roll, then they block that. But the cheese is cool because if I roll a cheese on my dice when I'm attacking, then I get to take that cheese and I put it on my player board. And if I get 6 cheese, which makes a full wheel, then I can upgrade my character. Or if I've already upgraded and gotten some of those power cards, all those power cards you were talking about earlier, they take cheese to activate. So I could either save them up to get more power cards, or I could use them to activate the ones I have. And then conversely, anytime the enemies roll cheese on defense or their move or whatever, then you have to add cheese to this time wheel up at the top, this cheese wheel that's basically a timer for the game. And anytime that fills up, there's a surge, which means on the scenario that you get into when you enter a room, you flip a card and it tells you what kind of enemies you're going to face. Or sometimes the book will tell you, like, if you get a surge during this scenario, then do this, and that's how you get the bigger enemies out and stuff. So I just love the way that cheese works, and it makes ranged attacks more difficult because range is very, very powerful because you can hit from anywhere on the board. You can shoot from anywhere.
But there's not that many die sides that have that on there.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to hit, so you need to have a lot of dice to roll in order to be effective as a ranged character. So I think that's one of the really cool parts of that game. And I thought, you'll hear it in the interview, but I really thought that came from Descent because Descent does the same type of thing. It uses that multiple things on each side of the dice, so it's very flexible and you can put more on one die. But he said that wasn't where it came from. So I was like, cool. Independently, he thought about
Heck
that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we've talked about the whole thing or not about everything you do, because then there's characters that are just magic characters. And so, a lot of cool thing is like the way the upgrades work is like the upgrades only work for certain classes of characters. Like there's a tinker and there's a leader and there's a scamp and a healer. And so you really need a party that can do all those things in order to, finish, some of the scenarios.
I couldn't imagine not playing 2 characters each. Like, I don't feel like we would be able to ever finish any of the chapters if we just had 2 people out there.
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, I think you have to. I think the book says 4 mice every time. Yeah,
okay.
No matter how many people you play with. Yeah. So you could theoretically play by yourself, but, you can play with any number of people, but somebody's going to be playing multiple characters because, yeah, it's balanced for having that full
And it's
party.
nice, too, because, like if Vaughn comes over or whatever, we can just give him a character. Like, it's not like something that you have to have started from the very beginning because each chapter is a whole different game.
Yep.
Like, it's a whole different feel and everything. So, you and I know what's going on as far as the story is concerned, but the game is still wonderful even if you don't know the back chapter story, And
there's lots of cool little things like there's, you might find, if you're searching a room, you might find a grape, right? Well, you found a grape. Okay. What's a grape do? It does all kinds of cool things. Like you can put it out as a grape and it can become roach bait. So there's roaches in this game. And if the roaches get you, some of them steal your cheese. You don't want that. So you can put out a grape and then instead of roaches moving towards you on their turn, they'll move towards a grape. So you can get them all in one place and just pick them off. Or if you also find a fork, then you can take the fork and use the grape and the fork together as a catapult. And do all kinds of other things to people, knock people down.
Hit Brody.
Yep. So just stuff like that. And then there's stuff like that littered all through the game where it's just like, find this one thing. And then if you have this other thing, put them together and they could do this cool thing. It's just like, there's a lot of cool little Easter eggs like that to find in the game, which I think is pretty cool.
So how about we listen to Jerry?
You want to listen to the interview?
Let's listen to Jerry.
All right. So that's our little overview of Mice and Mystics, rambling as it was. Now we're going to go to the interview with Jerry Hawthorne. He was super nice, super gracious.
It was so awesome.
And he's also going to talk about Stuffed Fables, which we're super excited about. That's his new game coming out, and we'll have a lot to say about that as soon as we get a hold of it. So here's the interview.
All right. We're here from deep in the heart of Texas, where everything's bigger, and including the percentage of uninsured motorists, with Jerry Hawthorne from Plaid Hat Games, designer of Mice and Mystics and the upcoming Stuffed Fables. Hi, Jerry.
Hello there.
Yes. Hi, Jerry. So glad to have you.
Awesome. It's good to be on.
That's awesome.
You don't know this, Jerry, but I grew up, I learned to drive in Texas, and I was hit by no less than 3 people that decided to just drive away right after they ran into me.
You're kidding me.
No, it was kind of bumper cars out there when I was in the 90s.
In the 90s, Texas. I like Texas. I think it's fun.
Yeah, I like it too.
Yeah.
How long have you been out there, Jerry?
Let's see here. I moved to Texas in I believe 1990.
Oh, really?
You've been out there a while.
Yeah.
Quite a while.
Yeah,
So are you a Dallas
Yeah.
Cowboys fan, Jerry?
I am.
Yes.
Yes. All right.
So are
that in
we.
common. Well, how fortuitous that Plaid Hat Games decided to move their whole operation out there where you already were. Was that a decision based on where you were, or was that just a business decision?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
That they really needed to be in a better market and someplace near an international airport because a lot of travel involved, and so they were just looking around and they decided Texas is a pretty good place. Dallas is a pretty good place. It's got a lot of big board gaming stuff happening here. So
Yeah, you guys have BGG Con coming up.
yeah, and Board Game Geek is headquartered here,
That's true. That's true.
Nice.
and there's like 3 or 4 game companies right here in the DFW area. The Nerd Nighters is a big social charity organization here, and they have monthly big gaming meetups and stuff. So, and we have, I think, weekly. There's the Dallas Board Game Marathon that goes on. I think it's weekly. So there's a lot of stuff going on around here when it comes to board games.
Really? I had no idea. Of course, I really wasn't into gaming when I lived there, but now it's a hotbed, so go figure. Well, we are unabashed lovers of Mice and Mystics.
Oh man, that is our favorite. I can't get enough of that game.
But you would think
That's so awesome.
You would think we had eaten up all the content, but actually we've been playing this game for about 2.5 years now, and this weekend we finally finished the 6th chapter in the first book because we tend to make a meal of this game.
We do.
We only play it when we have no distractions and a day to do nothing, and we refuse to cut any corners or anything like that. And I painted everything. I have all the expansions and everything, and I painted everything up, and I'm like, someday we will see the lizard guy, and someday we will see these fairy things, and but hasn't happened yet, but I'm loving it. So we wanted to, if we had our druthers, you would be the number one on the list to interview, and you are the first designer we have interviewed. So you kind of made our dreams come true.
Yes,
here.
we're so excited. Like Ben even made a Brody paw out of baking clay. So we've got this big huge claw that he painted, and he baked it and then he painted it, and so whenever Brody comes out, we got this big huge claw just sticking out there. It's pretty awesome. Or this paw. It's really awesome. We love it.
Oh, that's so kind, you guys. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You even made your own custom. You've kind of pimped your game there, I guess, right?
Yeah, I tend to do that with things. I get a lot of grief for doing that. But and this time she actually liked what I did.
I did.
Now, I've heard the origin story of where you came up with this idea, and I told it to Lee, but I think I only heard it secondhand. Could you let us know how you came up with the idea for Mice and Mystics?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I was, when my daughter was little, she really liked mice. She had a couple of pet mice, and she had, all of her stuffed animals were all different variations on mice. And so that was what she was into. And we were trying to teach her how to read, and she was really struggling. We would lay down at nighttime to do our reading before bed and stuff, and she would just be so wiggly and fidgety and just really wouldn't concentrate. And then as she started to try to learn how to read, she really struggled with it. And so, most dads out there, I thought, oh, I'm going to fix this. And so I came up with this idea that I could create a board game that would kind of blend a little bit of gameplay, and then it would chunk out the reading. So the reading would come in smaller bits, and then it would be split. It would be broken up by gameplay, and then the gameplay I figured could sort of demonstrate for her the connection between, what was happening in her imagination, and sort of bring it to life, and show that connection between the written word and action. And I thought that might help her learn how to read. So that's basically how the game began. I started writing the story and creating the mechanics, and next thing you know, a friend of mine, Colby Dowk, got wind that I was working on this thing, and he wanted to hear about it. And then he got really interested in wanting to publish it and stuff, and so I created a prototype, and I never did actually help my daughter learn how to read because we had her diagnosed. She actually had a learning difference that no amount of my attempts to try to fix it through board gaming were going to work. So she has this visual processing disorder, which causes her eyes to not really be able to track smoothly when she's reading, and so they kind of jitter and hop around. So letters and words will be missed as she's going along. They just never really actually make it to her brain.
Ah.
And so that's the real problem. And so this is a discovery process. But at the same time that we were discovering this learning difference in our daughter was also happening at the same time I was discovering, I was creating this game. And that's how Mice and Mystics got started.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's really awesome. Well, how is her reading? Is she able to work through that? Is that something that physical therapy or anything can help with?
Well, she's like 16 now, right? She's driving now, huh?
She's 15.
15.
She's going to turn 16 like at the 1st of December. So she's almost 16. And she gets fantastic grades now and everything. And but she still struggles. Her spelling is not good. But her handwriting is gorgeous, and so she makes up for it in other ways. But what the deal is when you have a learning difference, you just have to work a little bit harder in life. That's just all there is to it. But I always tell her, I was like, what happens to people who have to lift a lot of weights? They get a lot of muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's kind of happening with you. You're really working your brain hard, so you're going to be, you're going to benefit from that in the long run. And so she really kind of has.
She's going to totally excel in other areas. That's awesome.
And that really hits home with us because we have an 8-year-old daughter as well. And up until just this year, something really clicked. And, she was having a really hard time, really struggling with reading. And we started to think, do we need to get a tutor? How do we do it? I mean, we do tons and tons of reading at home. And it's just finally, something clicked. And now she's just reading like crazy. And it's really, it's really nice to see that, when that revelation happens. So, that's
fantastic.
And I had told her the story about that game too. And she thought that was really cool.
Well, yeah. And, so not only did Mice and Mystics, help you to figure out a way to try to help your daughter, but then you were able to figure out, what her difference was and be able to help her in a different way. So, even if Mice and Mystics isn't the reason, obviously that she was able to figure it out, through the process, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a heck of a step.
Oh, absolutely.
To take.
And what I always tell people is that Mice and Mystics did end up helping my daughter. The revenue that's coming to my household from sales of Mice and Mystics have afforded us to be able to buy tutors and have special glasses made for her that were like $6,000 and to help with her eyesight and stuff like that. And all of the ways that we've been able to sort of finance some of the extra needs that she had earlier in her schooling, all that came from Mice and Mystics. And so and shoot, I mean, how can you beat that? Not having to worry about that stuff.
Absolutely. So it accomplished its goal anyway.
That's right.
And in our opinion, made a fantastic game. So one thing I was going to ask also about the game itself is, what games were you into when you started that design process? Had you designed anything previously, or did you just start whole cloth creating these things to match that narrative that you had in your mind? Because I see some inspiration on I feel like I see inspiration from other dungeon crawlers, early Descent, with the multi-use dice and stuff like that. Was that part of it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really get inspiration from Descent at all, but my favorite board game in the whole wide world is Hero Quest, that old dungeon crawl board game from Milton Bradley that came out in 1989. And I've been involved in fan communities that kind of popped up when the internet came about, in the mid '90s.
Yeah.
And I've always been involved with that game with Hero Quest, and so I love that game. So most of my board game, like when it comes to the way that I design Mice and Mystics, is I had several different concepts. And I hope, if I'm just getting too dry or too boring,
no,
please
absolutely,
You're fine.
I watched this movie with my kids, and I really loved it. It was called The Incredibles. Have you guys seen The Incredibles?
Yeah. Yep.
It was a Pixar film. Okay, so what I loved about it is the idea that you had this family of superheroes, and each of them alone isn't nearly as strong as all four of them together, and they each have a sort of an ability that fits with each other, kind of like a little puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Dad's strong, mom's flexible. The teenager just wants to disappear, and the little boy is just fast, and I mean he's buzzing around all over the place and stuff. And so their superpowers also kind of mimic their personalities or their role in the family. Moms need to be flexible, dads need to be strong. These kinds of things. Well, I thought, wouldn't that make a great board game where you could play cooperatively, and it would be like this family. And I wasn't necessarily focused on making them superheroes or anything, but I started coming up with this idea about how you could have this family cooperative game. And then those were the mechanics that I used when I came up with the Mice and Mystics story idea. I just blended those two together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Sure, and you can definitely tell it too with the characters. With Filch and Maginos, and you can really tell that they blend so nicely together. We always play two at a time.
Yeah,
so
we play two characters apiece.
Two characters apiece, and I always have to have Filch. He's my favorite. He's kind of a butt, but he's my favorite. And then, and our daughter's name is Lily, and so we try to get her to play. And so when she plays, of course, we give her the Lily character, so it's
She's
fun.
just unfortunately totally not into games. She's at that stage where, what we like is uncool. So she's more into arts and crafts and stuff. And every time we try to get her to play games, it's like she'll play for about 10 minutes and then she's totally over it. So, that's just how she is. But that makes total sense, and how they do mesh. The characters definitely mesh together, and I like how on certain certain scenarios or chapters you need to have at least there's one certain character that needs to be in there for like a mechanical purpose, but that tends to always make sense in the story as well.
Yeah, the original idea was that I was going to have each of the characters was going to have their own individual side story or chapter written about them, and that just kind of morphed into this when the story just came to life and I had this whole entire story arc going. Then I eliminated those individual character stories and just went with the main overarching story.
Yeah, well, it works really well so far. I mean, like I said, we're only halfway through, and I'm really, like I said, we chew on every game that we play. So
are we just slow?
Yeah, I think we're slow.
Because one chapter will take us, like 3 hours?
Yeah, we play for every session takes us about 3 hours. I don't think it's supposed to take that long, but that's how long it takes us.
No, it's like a 90-minute game.
Oh, no, we've never had a 90-minute game.
But it's okay if you're enjoying yourself, then it doesn't really matter, right?
We absolutely do. So that kind of leads us into, I had heard that at Gen Con there was going to be an announcement of your newest project. And, we were kind of crossing our fingers thinking, more Mice and Mystics. And I almost thought it wouldn't be, but I didn't really have any idea what it was. And lo and behold, you guys announced Stuffed Fables, which
looks awesome.
Yeah, I am really, really, really excited. And when I showed my daughter that is more the type of thing that will grab her imagination. And, the stuffed animals coming to life, and she seems really interested in that, so I'm hoping maybe I can wrangle her into playing that. Can you tell us a little bit about Stuffed Fables?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's another cooperative game in the same vein as Mice and Mystics. It's a big old story that you're playing through, and it has all different mechanics. And in this case, you're playing the part of a little stuffed animal who comes to life at night to protect their little girl from the monsters that come from under the bed. But on your first night on the job, now I don't want to spoil too much, but your first night on the job, through a series of mishaps, you get sucked into the portal under the bed, and you end up in the other world where the monsters come from. It's a dreary world that is ruled by the great Nightmare King, and it's populated by lost and broken toys who you discover need your help. So now you have you have this girl that you're trying to protect in the real world, and in this other world, you have all these needy toys and stuffed animals who need your help. And so the stories kind of have you bridging between both worlds as you try to put the balance back in. Once the Nightmare King finds you meddling in his world, then he starts coming more after your little girl and messing up her sleep and stuff. So that's pretty much what it's about.
I'm so excited.
And it's each chapter in the book is one night in the life of this little girl, and they're going to be like milestone nights. Like the first chapter is called the Big Girl Bed, and it's the night where it's the first night that the little girl's sleeping in her big girl bed, and it's the perfect night for her to have an unrestful sleep. Right? Mm-hmm. It's a great night for the Nightmare King to come in and start meddling in her sleep and stuff. So without the magical crib to protect her, it falls upon the Stuffies to protect her sleep during the night. That's their job. So when she goes to sleep, they kind of clock in. They wake up, and it's their shift. Yeah. And then, like the second chapter in the book is the night when the parents are putting their girl to bed for the first night without an overnight diaper on. So she's learning to potty train and stuff. And then that night, the Stuffies clock in. They wake up, they clock in, and they hear water running in the house. And the monsters have arrived already, and they're running around the house turning on faucets. So it's their job to protect their little girl's sleep. And so they're running around the house turning faucets off and then trying to figure out what's going on. And so as you can see, there's like always these little capers happening. Yeah. Every chapter is different. Every page of every chapter is different. So every time you turn a page in the book, you're going to a new location, and there will be new surprises and new twists waiting for you. It's a 104-page giant book that comes with this thing, and you literally play the game right in the book. On your left-hand page is going to be the map that you play on, and on the right-hand page is going to be all your story and all your little bits of rules that kind of guide you through. And you're using different colored dice, and each color represents a different character attribute. And so you're sharing dice and rolling dice and combining dice, because you can combine any dice of the same color. You can combine together with other dice of the same color, and so you can get a bigger result by combining light colored dice. And so the whole thing is kind of run by dice.
Do each of the characters have their own special ability or use of different colored dyes?
Yes, each character has a dye color that is their preferred dye color. That's the one that they work with best, and they get to reroll that color. And so, for instance, if you have Flops the bunny, she gets to reroll green. So if you arm her with a ranged weapon, which trigger off of green dice, and you're going to be a more powerful archer than any of the other characters. If you happen to be using, I say archers. There's, the weapons in the game are all repurposed household items and toys and stuff like that. So you could be using rubber bands to shoot at enemies and stuff. It's all very, lighthearted and charming and silly in a way, but.
Well, is it because the tone to me, like just looking at the miniatures and things. I mean, I read up on the releases that you guys have done, and it looks like it is aimed towards a family style game, but also it has that sort of Tim Burton-y meets Pixar aesthetic, where it's a little bit dark. Is it dark like that too? Because I believe things like that, even for kids, some of the things that make an impression on our daughter and me when I was a child, it's some of those darker movies that stick with you longer, Is that intentional, on your side to make it seem more real by having there be a real threat being kind of a dark setting?
Well, having one of the missions of this game is to help children overcome their fears, and so there is tension created in the game through storytelling, through mildly perilous adventures, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But the thing is that the term that I use for the look and the feel and the tone of the writing, the term I use is I call it cute creepy.
Yeah.
And it's just cute and creepy kind of blended together.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as scary as you think. You might like think that things are scarier than they really are once you find out that when you get into this other world and then there's all these little lost and needy little toys. Some of it can be, it can make you feel empathy and when you find out that the minions aren't really monsters at all, but they're just like these creatures made out of broken toys, out of old parts of old broken down toys and stuff, then it kind of takes all the scariness of monsters out of it.
That makes them a little sad, doesn't it?
Yeah, gives you that.
It does.
Yeah. So when's the release date for this guy?
It should be out before the end of the year. Should be out before Christmas.
Oh,
Awesome.
I'm
I don't
excited.
I don't have a specific date that I can plop on you, but
Well, that's okay.
They don't let us get real specific with it.
We're going to pre-order
sometime before the end of the year.
We're going to pre-order anyway. So, it sounds really good. Like, and what I've read on the release things that you've done so far, you're doing like some character profiles and things like that. And there's this thing that you've stuck in for when you're playing with younger children to kind of have a little moral lesson at the end and a talking point for each chapter. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Okay, so the whole idea behind Stuffed Fables is basically, when you're a kid, you learn about fables. You learn about them in school, and you learn about them from your parents, and you learn about them by reading. But a fable basically is a story almost always involving talking animals or inanimate objects. And they are designed to deliver a multi-layered moral lesson. And so what I wanted to do with Stuffed Fables is I wanted to create modern fables that could pertain to modern life. And instead of having talking animals, it's talking stuffed animals.
Yeah.
So, but the whole entire story is like one giant fable. And then each chapter it is its own fable, and we start each chapter with a fable that these are new fables, but they're written to seem like old style fables.
Mm-hmm.
We start each chapter with a fable, and if you want, you can read the fable, and it'll match the theme of that particular chapter. And so you can kind of explore that theme throughout your gameplay. And at the end of the chapter, we have these little things we call talking points, which are just questions, sort of open-ended questions that are just really designed to spark conversation, really. And they're not necessarily directed towards children or anything. I mean, anybody could really ask these questions of each other and just spark a dialogue if they're interested. But these aren't really game mechanics at all. They're just tools that we put in there in case people are interested in fables or interested in some of the possible moral choices that are happening in the game.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I read one to Leandra last night off of the website, and she just thought that was.
I just love it. As a mom and having, my daughter she's 8 and she's so impressionable, and like Ben has said, she's struggling with the reading aspect, and so having this kind of game, I cannot wait to get it in our house and play it with her and be able to ask her those questions at the end and get her involved more. And I think that she will love to do this with us. Like, I am so excited to play this game with her.
Yeah, I hope she really responds to it well.
I think she will.
I'm really excited that the kids that have been involved with the making of Stuffed Fables, some of the playtesters, children and stuff, they just ate this thing up. I mean, and played through the whole thing and then wanted to start again and play through it all over again.
That's great.
So it's pretty cool. The mechanics are great because I designed a rule set that once you learn how to play the game, you really won't forget how to play the game, so you don't really need the rule book all that much. Basically what you do on your turn is you reach into this bag and you pull 5 of these multicolored dice out, and then those are the dice that you use on your turn, and you pass the bag to the next player, and they do the same thing, and you do some reading and have some fun.
Is there any like bag building in it, or are all the dice in that bag at the beginning of the round? I know there's like black dice that can come out that can cause bad things to happen. Do you ever add to that bag, like to power it up, or is it like a static set of dice?
It is a static set of dice. There's colored dice, which are always, there's 5 of each colored dice, and then there's the white dice and the black dice.
Mhm.
The white dice is your stuffing. So whenever you reach in the bag and you pull out a white die, you roll that die, and then if the number you roll is equal to or higher than the current stuffing, then you gain a piece of stuffing. So you don't really need to have a healer or anything. It's like you find a little piece of stuffing on the ground and you shove it in your little stuffed animal.
I love that mechanic.
And,
that's really cool.
That's
I like
awesome.
that mechanic.
You can pull stuffing out of your stuffed animal, share it with your fellow players and stuff. So there's all this, it's like your life points. It's like an RPG, and it's like your life points.
Yeah.
How creative.
The number of those white dice, it depends upon the number of stuffies that are in that you play with. So if you had 3 stuffies, you'll have 4 white dice. If you have 4 stuffies, you'll have 5 white dice. It's always one higher than the number of stuffies you play. And that's the same thing with the black dice. And the black dice are basically your bad things happening. We call those threat dice. So whenever you pull black dice out of the bag, they go on this little track. And when the track builds up, it's kind of like the cheese wheel in Mice and Mystics.
Mm-hmm.
When it builds up, you have it gets to a certain point, you have a surge. So
yeah,
and then the black dice are kind of cool because,
excuse me, sorry. That's one of the mechanics I think that really differentiates Mice and Mystics from a lot of co-op games, because I mean a lot of them have, some things that come on the board that happen, but that way that you use the cheese wheel in Mice and Mystics and the way it's manipulatable sometimes and certain characters mess with it. I think that was one of the real standout mechanics in Mice and Mystics. So I'm anxious to see how you do it with this black dice mechanic.
Yeah. The cheese wheel and all that, the use of cheese in Mice and Mystics is one of my favorite things about that game too.
I love it.
It's interesting. A little side story about how I created the cheese mechanic in that game. Have you guys ever heard of this game? It's a video game called Left 4 Dead.
No, I haven't heard of it. Oh, wait. Yes, I had. Yeah, that's the co-op first-person shooter, right?
It's a co-op zombie first-person shooter.
That's right. I have played that a long time ago.
I was reading an article about that game, right? About what the designers of that video game, what they did that was different than other video games. One of the things that they had in there is that they said that the players won't even know it because it's happening behind the scenes. It's not something that's happening on the screen. But behind the scene, there's a little clock. And then when that clock hits winds down to a certain point, then there'll be what they call a crescendo. But what it is like just massive amounts of zombies come at you from all angles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here you are, you're playing along, and so it's not scripted, okay? You don't know when it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's not scripted at all. So it's just this little clock that ticks away in the background. Well, as you're playing, you could be in the worst dire straits at that moment, and then suddenly that clock goes off, and then the room gets flooded with zombies from every direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just loved that idea that they could create this video game where the players never know when they're going to be, ambushed by all these zombies. And I thought, how could you do that in board game? How could you translate that into a board game? Of course, when you're doing things in a board game, everything has to be super simple, right? And it also has to integrate with the current systems in the game. You don't want to just constantly create new subsystems within a game because then you're just going to get out of control.
Mm-hmm.
So the little cheese wheel thing came about because of that. I realized that when I arranged my cheese wedges into like a cheese wheel, that it took six of my little cheese wedges that I'd created. It took 6 of them to make a little wheel. I was like, wow! And then that's how it came about.
That was it.
And that opens up so many things in the game, where that becomes like, the cornerstone of the game. You need cheese to level up. You need cheese to, you need to watch that wheel and make sure you don't get surges. And
Filch needs to kill rats to get rid of the cheese.
Yeah,
That's right.
It really does make an interesting mechanic out of a game that is intentionally made to be a family game, but that adds a little bit more depth, especially because it's not just like a continuous clock running in the background. It's a clock that you can see it. You can see your impending, dread. So if you're fighting Brody and like a boss character. And then also you see that you're one cheese away from a surge. There's some actual stakes there. So it's a very interesting mechanic.
That's right. Yep.
Well, Jerry, we would really like to thank you for being with us. The reason I don't want to take up too much of your time is that the reason that, but we are super excited to have had you on. And I'm telling you, there's no game on the horizon that I know about that I'm as excited about as Stuffed Fables. We would like to request an advance copy right now.
Yes, please.
And we'll review it, and it'll be glowing. I can be sure. But no, we'd just both like to thank you very much for making such cool games and for giving us the time to interview you.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, and for sharing your story about your daughter and how it all came to be. It's very appreciated. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. It's very kind of you.
All right. Well, everybody look for Stuffed Fables to come out before Christmas. It'll be a great Christmas present this year.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank
you,
guys.
Jerry. You have a great evening.
All right. That was so cool. That was our dream come true as far as a guest. So
that was pretty awesome. Yeah, made our day, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was really cool. We were both like kind of down in the dumps because of other things, and I was super nervous about the interview, but he really turned it around. Like, he just made our day by talking to us. He's such a nice guy. So since in honor of talking about such a great family game like Mice and Mystics, and what sounds like it's going to be even more conducive to playing with kids, Stuffed Fables.
I cannot wait to get
I love
that
the
game.
theme myself.
Oh my
but
gosh.
everything that they released, like they released some new stuff today about one of the characters, and just like it was a little bit of story from the game, and it's just so cool. It's like the part he told us about the potty training night, like that little excerpt from that mission was on their website today, and it's just the writing is so good, and Jerry did all the writing in it too. It was really good. So in honor of that, we're going to talk about family games today. And we broke it down in a little way where I looked on BGG and I was thinking, what are they considering family games? And they had some games that I wouldn't necessarily consider family games right off the bat. So I had to look at it from a different way. They were definitely talking gamer families, because like Seven Wonders was the number one game, and I wouldn't necessarily think that's good for kids like our kids' age or anything like that. Like Lily would not be able to play Seven Wonders. No. I don't think, not very well. And then I was looking, and I was like, well, where's Catan on this list? And I was like scrolling way down. It was like number 52 on family games. And I was like, man, how the mighty have fallen. Like, I would have thought that would have been number one. So we decided to make our own criteria, which we broke it down. Family games for young kids, for a little bit older kids, which I'm going to say is about like Lily's age, 8 and up or so, into teenage years. And then for family games that you can play with non-gamers in your family, adults or teenagers or whatever. And then family games for your gamer family. So if you've got people who are already used to playing games and maybe don't know as much about these hobby games, but would really probably like it, like your sister, once you introduce them to it, they're like, hey.
Yeah, she loves it.
Yeah, where's this been the whole time? Because in the reason that, whenever we first started talking about doing family games, you brought up, I was saying these other games, these hobby games, and Lee was like,
Sorry, and Candyland and Trouble, and I mean those are the games I grew up on, Monopoly and Life, and
those are the traditional family games. But the problem with those is, and what I tell you every time is like, there's just not a lot of game to most of those games. They serve the purpose that they serve is to get a family around the table.
Family time, yeah.
And that's good. But I think that that's not enough nowadays, because there are games that do that and are fun. You know what I mean? And are actually fun. But they're not challenging in any way. Like there's no game to most of them. Most of them are very random. Like it's just you get the card you get and you move the color, or you know what I mean? That's it. It's very random. A lot of it is to me, it seems like it's for very young kids, and then people just kept playing them. Like Monopoly's good if you're 7 to 10 years old or something. But after that, if you're still playing Monopoly, it's kind of just for nostalgia purposes, like because I played it when I was a kid, not because it's a good game, So we decided to put games that are good games that do the same thing. So in our young kids bracket, Lee, what do you have down there? I like your choice. I have
Loopin' Louie or Loopin' Chewy.
Yeah, that's an awesome game.
I mean, how fun and easy is that for littles? Like all you have to do is push that little button and get them over the little thing. And
so Loopin' Louie is a motorized game. I think it's from Parker Brothers, but I'm not sure. And it's basically Louie is a little dude in a biplane, and he sits on an arm, a motorized arm that goes around in a circle. And everybody, I think it's up to 4 players.
It's only 4.
Has a little button on their side and a little ramp that has chickens on it, little discs. And Louie can be popped up and down by your button. So if you hit your button, he pops up and then he falls back down, with gravity. But he's also going in a circle, and his plane is attached to this arm on a pivot, so he can do loop-de-loops too.
And he goes from one person's side to the other person's side, depending on how hard you hit it or what angle you hit it.
And what you're trying to do is not let your chickens get knocked down, because if you don't pop him up when he comes around to your side,
your chicken will
then
get
he'll knock
down.
your chicken. He'll knock your highest chicken token, and then it will fall down into a hole, and boom, that's one.
And whoever has the chicken,
the most
chickens at the end, or whoever's left, pretty much is
everybody.
The winner.
Yeah, anybody that has any left whenever everybody else is gone.
It is such a simple little game, but adults, we got nice and toasty.
Well,
nice and toasty, and you just sit there and you zone out.
Yeah,
and
you get into a rhythm with it, because
my God.
You want to pop them up. Basically, it's really hard to attack the person that's next to you, but you can get the person that's the second person from you, right across from you. If you time
get
it just
right rhythm,
right when he gets to you, and you tap it, and then there's certain pressure, because you can tap it hard, tap it light, and it's just a lever that you're popping up, and you can knock him up and he'll do a loop-de-loop. But sometimes if you hit it too hard, you'll be going for that guy and he'll swing all the way back around
and hit you
and you'll knock yourself out. It's very erratic the way he moves, but you get in this rhythm where everybody's like boom, boom,
so
boom,
it's
boom.
really easy for littles, but yet it's still really entertaining for the adults too. It's just a really fun game.
And then they came, actually I think it's by Hasbro now that I think about it, because Hasbro came out with Loop and Chewy, which should by all means be a much better version of it. But the problem is, it was only for 3 players, which was dumb. So I bought 2 of them and took it apart and made a 4-player version of Loop and Chewy, which took some, I had to, craft some parts for it to make it work and everything. But I got it working. It's not as fast as the actual Loop and Louie game. Because the motor is a little weaker.
More.
I think the motor was just weaker because it wasn't supposed to have to go as far. It doesn't have a big an arm, but. Anyway, it's at least a 4-player version of Loop and Chewy.
It is.
So it looks cooler. I guess you could just probably take this. What I should have done was just bought a Loop and Louie and a Loop and Chewy and put the Loop and Chewy stickers on the Loop and Louie, and then took the dude off and put them back on there. That would have been the best way to do it, but I didn't do that. So I did it the hard way, where I had to buy 3 different boxes of it. But anyway, that's your choice, Loop and Louie. That's a great choice, I think.
Thank you.
Mine is even dumber than that, but it's super fun. And again, when I said before I was complaining there's no strategy in these games, there's no strategy in this game either.
You can't really have strategy for littles.
Well, that's true. This game is called Mustache Smash. And again, I think it's either by Parker Brothers or Hasbro or one of those games, because you can find it at Walmart or Target or wherever. But it is the dumbest game, but it's actually so much fun. And it can be played by people of any age, but kids really like it. So basically, you got these mustaches. I think there's 8 of them in the box, and they've got sticks on them, so you can hold them up to your nose, And there's a blonde handlebar mustache and a brown, I don't know, strongman. And then there's different shapes and colors. There's black, brown, and blonde, and 4 different shapes, I think, 3 or 4 different shapes of mustaches. And so you can put over your nose, hey, look at me, I got a cool mustache. Then you got cards, you got a deck of cards in the middle, and you flip one over on your turn, and then everybody, also these mustache sticks have a little suction cup on them. I forgot that part at the end of your stick. And if they flip over a card that's either your color or your shape of mustache, either one, then you can smash it and try to get it with your suction cup. And if you get the card stuck on your suction cup and bring it back up, then you've got that card, and that's a point for you. So if you get, 3 or more people playing it, you're gonna, you can have people trying to grab the wrong ones, which that's a negative point if you catch one that's not your color or your shape. And then you get people that, hey, it's my color, but it's your shape, so we're trying to do it at the same time. It's just super fun. So dumb,
but it's fun.
It's a fun little game. But I think for kids, that's a great game because it plays a whole bunch of people, and even for adults, a good little party game.
Well, yeah.
So that's Mustache Smash. And then we're going to go on up to the next level of the older kids, the 8 and ups, let's say. So what do you have for that, babe?
I have Catan Jr.
I figured you would pick that.
I love Catan, period. But honestly, I'm 36, and I love me some Catan Jr.
Catan Jr. is a pretty slick little package, actually.
It is.
It's very cool to look at. It has awesome, it's pirate theme, first of all, which is cool. And it's got a cool little art style that is cartoony and but just just really good. Like the characters are really neat of the characters and everything. It's got cool plastic pieces. You got these little skull mountains that you're trying to build instead of cities like in Catan, and you're building routes to these different islands is what you're doing. So instead of it being a modular board like Catan, the board's always the same shape. There's 2 sides for different player count, but basically the board's always the same shape. But everyone picks a starting spot, and then you're building out your routes from there. And it uses all the same ideas as Catan, but what it cuts out is the trading mechanism, because the negotiation. Because the big thing about Catan is I got wood for sheep or whatever. That's basically the biggest thing. This cuts it out by letting you trade directly with
the store, with the
a market.
stockpile, yeah.
And that makes it a lot simpler for kids because you can't screw a kid over by giving them a bad deal. They can always know that they can trade in, 3 of the same thing for 1 of anything they want, or take the different trades at the different markets depending on what they're doing. So it's more about planning out and figuring out, okay, I need to do this so that I can do this, which is a lot simpler for kids to do than to be like, I need to talk that person into giving me this, So I like it. Very, very, very good version of Catan, I think. And it's fast. It's
super fast. And I think that's why it's good, especially kids, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This generation, they have no attention span, period. If something's not bright and flashing and moving fast in front of their eyes, they lose attention, our daughter included. And so, having fun, quick games is good for kids these days, I think.
Yep. And she's played this at least once, right? Mm-hmm. Once or twice, I think, maybe with us. And then we played it with some of your other family, and it's good. I like it. It gets to the table more than regular Catan anymore, and I actually like Catan, A lot of people hate on it nowadays, but I like it still. But this is a lot quicker version of it. So
we even have a travel set.
Yeah, we do have a travel Catan, but that's been played once, I think.
Yeah.
So that's Catan Jr. I think that's a good pick.
What's on your list, kiddo?
Well, we talked about mine.
You kiddo.
You did call me kiddo.
Because I was reading older kids as my section, and so kiddo kind of came out.
That's all right.
What's on your list, love?
That's all right, kiddo. Old chum. Well, we talked about mine in the interview with Lily. Rhino Hero Super Battle. I think I played that game already about 5 times in the last week, and I played it with adults. I've played it with 2 players. I've played it with 4 players. I've played it with 3 players. I played it, and every time it's super fun, and everybody that walks by that looks at this game is like, hey, what is that? Like, if you want a game to get people into this hobby, or even to get kids, like, just start playing this game at a table around 8 and up year old kids. And they're going to be like, I taught this game to 2 little kids who were probably 4 and 5 this weekend. There was a little game convention in Springfield, and I was manning a booth there for our 4 and 7 gamers and plugging the podcast and stuff. And there were some kids of the people running the booth next to us, and they just were like, hey, can we play that game? We're like, yeah, come on over. So I showed them how to do it. And, they only stacked their tower about 2 high, and it fell over. And I was like, all right, now come back in a little while and you can play again because I'm not babysitting you for free, but no, it's one of those games that super easy, super fun. And there's no strategy, but there's enough dexterity. There is strategy, but I haven't ever actually seen it employed. Like, I've tried to do it. I lose every time because it basically this game always comes down to a die roll, because you can build so accurately and precisely, and stack something that looks like it's going to fall down and it doesn't fall down. But then you roll that dice to see how far you can move up, and you move down 1 and you're already only up 2. Well, if somebody else just rolls 3 times in a row, and doesn't knock it over, well, they're going to win. So it's not about, winning it or losing it, but it's just super fun to play for all ages. So I would be hard pressed to see a kid turn this game down. Like once they saw it being built, that everybody's going to want to try it.
Sure.
So for that age to get them into the idea of what these games are, I think it's a great one. So let's move on up to playing with family that are non-gamers.
Which we did this.
We do this a lot. And we're turning them into gamers now.
They are.
But they started out and never playing, a lot of our family had never played anything but card games, just like, a 52 card pickup and whatnot. But we've gotten them slowly into some other games. So what's on your list for something that you like to play with family like that? Dead Man's Draw. Yeah, we've talked about this before, and this is one of your all-time favorite games, right?
It's one of my favorite games.
Give a little fresher on what it is.
It's it's a push or let card game. So you want to get as many cards as possible in your playing area, and so you keep on turning over cards from the deck, and whenever you get the same card twice in the playing area, then you bust.
Yep.
And so you try to, there's different sequences that you can put together, like the chest and the key gets you special stuff, or
every card has a power. Right?
Every card has a power, yeah.
So you can flip over a card and it has a power, and you have to do that power. Whatever it is, you have to do it. So like it's a sword, it lets you take something from someone else's pile and put it into the cards that you're flipping out. And then if it's a cannon, it gets to destroy someone's core card.
And the oracle lets you look at the next card, and if you don't want to play it, you can put it down and then just go ahead and take all those cards. So, and as soon as the same card is drawn twice, you've busted. So you've
got to stop before you bust.
Yeah, you have to stop before you bust, or else you don't get to bank anything.
Whatever you stop, whatever you stop, you bank it, and that's your score. And so basically, in the regular game, you're scoring your highest number of each set. So like if you get 3 swords, you're only going to score your highest one. But it's dangerous because as you take your cards, people can steal them off the top of your stacks. So, it's really about it's a bunch of take that and a bunch of push your luck, which is sometimes crappy in a game. But for some reason, this one works great. And it's got a lot of stuff you can add onto it, like player powers and special scenarios for every game.
I don't recommend adding the player powers to a non-gamer for the first time playing.
Yep.
Just we did that, and it just got way extra confusing. Remember Sue and Tammy? I was like, I should have done that.
Yeah, but then after you played a couple of times, you throw that in, throw a little wrinkle in, and I like it. It's a great game, and anybody can learn it.
What's on your list, kiddo?
Jesus, would you stop that? Did you stop at Ace? I've got Lanterns on mine.
Yeah.
Lanterns I think it was a Mensa Select winner a couple of years ago. It's a tile laying game. We could have put Carcassonne on here, pretty easily, but we've talked about it and that we're new to it too. But it obviously falls in these categories too, I would say. But I think it's
That's what we played the other day that I was trying to think.
We
played one other game.
Yeah, we did. We played Carcassonne's South Seas, and it's basically like Carcassonne, but it's a standalone game. It plays a little differently, where you don't play on a score track. You play to complete these objective tiles, basically.
It felt very different.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was really cool. But anyway, that could have been on this list. Any version of Carcassonne could have fit somewhere on this list. I'm not sure if it would be.
Wait, so I have to tell our listeners what you did.
What'd I do?
He bought a sheet set because the sheet set came in a bag with a drawstring that matched the sheet, so that he could use the bag just for Carcassonne.
Yeah, because it had like seashell looking pattern on it. And I was like, I need a bag because you can't be playing off stacks
So he bought a sheet set just to use the bag for Carcassonne.
So now we have a set of sheets that don't fit any beds that we have. But it was the size of bag I needed. So
I got home and was like, where did this sheet come from? He was like, oh, I just needed the bag. I'm like, I should have known.
Comes with a nice cloth bag it was in. So anyway, but what we are talking about is Lanterns.
Sorry.
It just, for some reason, it sparked my memory of that game. And I guess that's the game we were trying to think of earlier that we played. we're just breaking the whole segment, but actually we played another game too that we should
did.
talk about last night. We played, and we're just going to
Survivor.
We're going to play Survive. Space Attack, which I was thinking about playing it because I knew we were going to do this section, this family game section. I was like, oh well, Survive, the original, is a really good game. I used to have it. It's about the sinking of Atlantis. And, you're destroying the board as you go.
Hated it.
And you like the original. But see, we played Space Attack, which is the new version, where you're destroying a space station, and there's all these aliens that are coming in at you. And basically,
it's Screw Thy Neighbor.
It is Screw Thy Neighbor all over, which Survive was too. But, man, there's so many more ways to do it in Space Attack. And I told her, going into it, because I thought, well, yeah, she does get mad at these kind of games sometimes, but I thought, well, I know we played Survive, and I don't remember you hating that, so I just told her, hey, this is a take that game, just don't take it too seriously, and it'll be fun. Oh my god, the eye rolls that I got and the death stares that I got in this game, the first time that I killed a couple of her dudes with a alien, it was bad.
I don't like take that games. I don't like them. They make me angry.
You just said you like Dead Man's Raw. That's a take that game.
Not like this.
No, not that. That's the whole point of this game, is to take that, because you're trying to get your guys off of the board and to these safe zones in the corners, and the only ways to move them are on these little ships or move them one.
And then of course Ben did his always Ben move halfway through. Oh yeah, we probably this is a rule we weren't following, which led to me losing 7 entire points. Which, by the way, wouldn't have helped me win, but I did lose 7 entire points that I shouldn't have lost had Ben read the directions fully. And of course, his rebuttal is, "Well, you're welcome to read the directions." Like I'm gonna do that,
Yeah, you can learn a game anytime you want and teach it to me. That's fine. Yeah, there's
That's not how this works, babe. This is a give and take relationship.
Yeah, I give, you take.
That's how it works.
All right, I should know that. So anyway, yeah, Survive Space Attack. I thought it was fun. I would like to play it with other people who like those kind of games.
Not me.
Man, did Lee hate it. I got so much side eye in that game. It was crazy. So anyway, now back to our actual thing. I think we've got all the games we forgot to talk about before. So back to Lanterns, the game that we do like. Lanterns is a cool little tile laying and basically set collection game where it's all about the perspective of where you're sitting on the board. So basically what happens is you pick a tile off of a stack, flip it over, and you have to match it up there's a starting tile that has all 4 colors, and you're matching up colors. And what it's simulating is this lantern festival in, I think it's Japan, maybe, I don't know, some Asian nation. And they're lanterns floating on a lake. So that's the abstract of what you're doing. And you're there's always 4 colors on one color on each side of your tile, your square tile. And you're trying to match it up. And if you match, then you get, you place it out on the board. And if you match, then you get one of the color that you matched. So if I put a purple up next to a purple, I'll get a purple lantern. And then I'll also get whatever color lantern is facing me. So if there's a red lantern facing me and I match a purple to a purple, then I get a purple and a red. And then if Leandra is sitting across from me, she'll also get a purple because that's what's pointing towards her. And if Sue is sitting to the left of me and there's a white on her side, she's going to get the white. There's more than 4 colors, by the way, because I think there's 6 different lanterns, 6 different colors you can get. And you're trying to collect these colors so that you can fulfill these score tiles that start out with they'll be 1 of each color, or 4 of a kind, or 2 of 2 different colors. And then as you take those score tiles, as you get those lantern colors, you turn them in for score tiles, and they get worth less and less points as people take the tiles. And also, there's a mechanism where there's these floating barges that can be put down, platforms that have dragons on them and pandas and stuff. And if you ever match up to a tile that has one of those floating things on there, you get this little wooden favor token that come in the game, which the components are really cool in this game. So you take that wooden favor token, and I think it's if you get 2 of those, You can turn them in. What do they do? You turn those favor tokens in to get something. I cannot remember what it is. Oh yeah, it's to swap one card, one of your lanterns for another lantern out of the supply. And I didn't really actually just remember that. I had to edit it in because I had to go look at what it actually does.
Why'd you just tell on yourself?
It was the magic of editing. So anyway, and you play until all the favor tokens are gone, I think. Or no, till all the tiles are gone. Till all the tiles are gone, yeah. And just doing that, basically, swapping out what you need, matching up colors, trying to do the most efficient job of that. But it's pretty cool because, every time I play one, you're getting stuff too. Everybody's getting something every turn.
And that's the good thing about this game is with non-gamers, every person's turn you do something.
Yeah, so you're always engaged and looking at what's happening.
So the new person, the new gamer to the table doesn't get bored. They don't lose interest because you're doing something every time.
Absolutely. So I like Lanterns a lot. There's an expansion out for it now that I'd like to get because it is pretty simple. Like, it's a fun game to play, like me and you, but it could use a little bit more of something. And it's called, I think it's called the Emperor's Favor or something. It does something else with the favor tokens, but might pick that up sometime, give that game some new life. So that was it for me and you on the family non-gamers. Now we're going to move into, if you've got some family members that are gamers or they're just starting to move into this, maybe they played Catan or maybe they, played Carcassonne.
But you still want to keep it a light family
game. You don't want it to be a super, serious strategy heavy game. Just something that has got a little bit more meat on it, a little bit more to chew on,
But it's still fun.
Still fun. What do you have on yours, babe?
Well, Mice and Mystics.
Mice and Mystics.
Like I said, you can be in the middle of a chapter or,
or a campaign,
a new campaign, and you can invite however many family members you have.
Up to 4 anyway.
You know what I mean? But that's really good. They don't have to be there for the whole campaign. Each chapter can have different people, and if you know what you're doing as far as games are concerned, people could just jump right in and out of this whole entire game. So,
well, and if I think this game is great. Like a lot of games, if you've ever, like Jerry talked about, with Hero Quest, like this intro into role playing and the idea of role playing. Because if somebody's walked in and had never played a game before, or even if they were a gamer, they would look at that and they would look at Mice and Mystics and think you're playing Dungeons and Dragons or something like that.
Sure, yeah.
So it's like an intro into that type of game, the at least the combat mechanics of that type of game and some of the storytelling of that kind of game. And they might have always wondered what like Dungeons and Dragons or role playing games were about. And this is a real easy way to dip your toe into that, like for kids or something, without anybody having to plan anything out ahead of time or no dungeon master needed or anything. It's just like, this is a taste of kind of what that's like, that campaign idea. And
lighthearted.
Yeah. In, a really beautiful package and really well thought out game, Yep, I agree. I mean, it had to be on this list, right?
Wolves, yeah.
So obviously that's the best choice of the night right there. But I'm going to go ahead and give mine, and I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to give 2 in my last spot.
2? I didn't get to pick 2.
I'm a cheater, kiddo. I'm going to say Takenoko is that next step up from like a Catan or something, because it's not terribly complex, but there is a lot more strategy to it than your average, game that looks like it. It's so pretty. It's got little panda miniature and then a little gardener miniature and everything's super brightly colored and everything. So it's got that family aesthetic, but there's some actual, real gameplay in there as far as what you're trying to do and what you're going for and looking what other people are going for and try taking advantage of the bamboo that they're growing. It's just really good set collection type game. Takenoko and, that's by Antoine Bauza, who also made Seven Wonders, and Seven Wonders is up super high on that family game thing on BGG. And I'm like, where's Takenoko? How come it's like that? To me is so much more a family game than Seven Wonders. But anyway, and then I'm going to also throw in Alhambra. Alhambra is a really, really fun, like to me that it's almost a quintessential when I think about like, well, if I had 4 family members that all knew how to play a game and I just wanted to play that lighthearted family game, but that still had like real competition, the Alhambra is like that. That's that game because, it's got the tile laying, it's got the card playing, it's got some luck too, because, the whole the advantage is to play like the exact right amount of money, which takes some strategy, but then it also takes luck because someone could bot the tile that you were looking for the whole time, and then you have to rethink your whole strategy, you know, and just deal with what comes. So it's got that little bit of randomness along with the strategy of how you build your Alhambra out and how you build your tile placement and stuff. Last time we played this game, you broke the scoreboard. You like completely blew the whole entire
Can't
thing
help
up.
it. I'm awesome.
Yeah, you did really well. And I played this so much on my phone. I had this when my grandma was in the hospital. I downloaded this on my phone, and I just played it over and over and over and over because it's such a good, quick, fast game to play like that. It takes like 10 minutes to play a game on your phone, you know? So, and I haven't played it on the table since then, but I'd like to. I got it out the other night, and I was like, we played Survive instead of that.
You played Survive first. I think you probably should have done that the other way around.
Yeah, probably should have played Alhambra first, but we need to get that one back out because this
Survive now is in the same category as Courtier.
Oh, jeez. Well, Courtier is a better game, but you need to give it another shot.
No.
Yeah.
No, I will not.
All right, so that's my last spot. I'll say Takenoko and Alhambra. Alhambra was a Spiel des Jahres winner, I think, in 2003 or something like that.
Bless you.
Quite a while ago. I didn't sneeze. I said Spiel des Jahres. Baby. I love it. So there's a few games to play with your family of all ages. And, there's a million more that could fit in there. And if you've got your favorite family game to fit any of these categories, why don't you let us know on our Facebook page or
We'd love to hear
on our website on the comments for this episode. Let us know what you like. Now, we're going to take a little break with an ad for Moon City Con. Hello, all you Midwestern gamer folks. That's you. I'm talking to you, Lee.
You talking to me?
Yeah. You want to go to a convention?
Hell yeah.
Maybe sometime in the spring of next year?
You know it.
2018, April? You got it open?
It's open on my calendar.
14th and 15th, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
All right, April 14th and 15th in Springfield, Missouri, just a stone's throw away from our home, if you got a good arm, is the Moon City Con, the first year of the convention that myself has helped plan and stressing me out. So everybody needs to go and make it a great success so that next year is a lot smoother to plan. Planning one of these things has become a bear, you know?
Hey, but you just got your first promo in of your t-shirt.
Yeah, we've sold out of our founders tickets, so those are no longer available. And I got the promo or the preview of the shirts that are going out with that.
And they look awesome.
And they look awesome. So I've designed a whole nother t-shirt with the main logo that will be available to buy right now at www.mooncitycon.com. And also now you can get your regular passes for $35 and the t-shirts will be $25.
And what do you get for that $35, babe?
$35 gets you 2 days.
2 full days.
At a really nice convention center, the Oasis Inn and Convention Center in Springfield, Missouri, where there are rooms available also. You can play open gaming. You can play in our tournaments. You can play our play-to-win games. We'll have vendors there, demoing games, selling games. Pretty much it's just board games. Anything you want to do that has to do with board games, miniature gaming, come on out. 2 days. We do it the way we like it. We are veterans of between the 4 people that are planning this, all the conventions. And we're doing what we like best about those conventions. So we're hoping to really make it a gamers convention. We don't have anything like that in this area. And so now we're going to make it ourselves.
Heck yeah.
So that's www.mooncitycon.com, April 14th and 15th, 2018. Be there or be hexagonal.
Because we now know how many sides that shape has, Rodney. And we're back with our last segment, IRL. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
All right.
So, what's on the agenda for in real life?
Well, you've got a 10-day countdown going.
10 days
till
to Hong Kong. Man.
Yep. And now I have my own 10-day countdown going.
You do.
Because the same day you leave for Hong Kong, Lily and I are going to see Katy Perry.
With
Vaughn and Craig. which is a weird crew to be going to see. But the weird thing is, they were going to go see Katy Perry without us. And I was like, hey, I'm the one with a child. Maybe I should be involved
We're
in this.
the one that has the daughter who loves Katy Perry.
So, yeah, Vaughn goes to every concert he can, within, driving distance from here. So he was thinking about going. And we were on our way to the Kansas City Ren Fest last weekend. And Vaughn's like, anybody want to go see Katy Perry? And to my great shock, Craig was like, yeah, I'll go. I'm like, Craig likes like industrial metal from the late 80s, early 90s and stuff. And like, he's like, yeah, after Katy Perry, we should go see Rammstein. Like, good Lord. So yeah, we have some diverse musical tastes, but Lily has already seen Katy Perry.
Well,
she's a spoiled little
kind
child
of.
because I bought her tickets for Christmas as a Christmas present
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Well, we both went in. I couldn't remember what happened. Yeah, but that was a Christmas present for her. She's all excited, super excited. And then we went up to see in St. Louis, and we were staying with our friends up there. We've talked about them before, Scott and Tracy. And on the way up there, we kind of came to the agreement that I would just not go to this Katy Perry concert and let you and Tracy take Lily to it. Be a girls' night, right?
Yes.
And so that's what happened. And then Lily promptly
Fell asleep.
through most of the whole thing,
Oh
right?
my gosh. Yeah, so the opening act, she's all ready and pumped, and then Katie gets on, I don't know, maybe 8:30 or so, which at that time is an hour past Lily's bedtime. And so, so she's on at 8:30, and so Lily maybe stayed awake for the first 20 minutes. And then, like one of her favorite songs come on. I mean, it's a concert.
Was she awake for Roar? Or
No, she slept through all of it. And so, what's that one?
She gets that from her papa. You know that?
She does.
I took my dad to see his favorite band of all time, the Ozark Mountain Daredevils. They had a 20-year reunion. They hadn't been together in 20 years. And they did it at this really beautiful theater here in Springfield at the Galois. And I bought tickets. I had to get on the phone and call 1 second after they opened to get tickets for this thing. Got excellent tickets for it to take him for his birthday. He fell asleep 10 minutes in and slept through the whole goddamn thing.
Yeah. Lily did too. So she's laying on my shoulder sleeping, with Katy Perry down there giving a performance, and it's theatrical and people screaming and people it's like, Lily, it's your favorite song. Lily. She wakes up and she opens her eyes and she claps her little hands. Go, Katie. And that was it. She was back asleep again. So when you told me you were taking her, I was like, you give that baby coffee and soda and chocolate and everything else so she can stay awake to say she can actually remember seeing Katie.
I'm going to let her sleep all the way there. I'm going to make her sleep all the way there. And then about 30 minutes before we get there, I'm going to wake her up and start pumping her full of soda and maybe Starbucks. I don't know. We're going to crack her out for that thing so she can stay up. But she's a little bit, she's had some midnight nights, now at sleepovers and stuff. She can do it. I think she'll be a lot better this time. And, I didn't think she'd ever get the chance to see her again. And whenever this came up, I was like, yeah, she needs to go.
Absolutely. I'm glad you guys are going.
So now she's going to have done a girls' night at Katy Perry and a dude's night at Katy Perry. So that's 10 days for both of us on that.
Yep.
And then the only other thing that's coming up before our next episode, I'm hoping to have a Halloween horror-themed episode come out. I will have one at some point before Halloween. Now, what we're not sure about is will we be able to record before you go to China? And if we don't, then we might try to record remotely from China.
We'll see how that goes.
So
my schedule is always so hectic when I'm over there. So
we're going to at least try to get you to check in at least and have a little something to say. And I might have to get a guest host to take your place for that episode if I don't do it all myself. We'll just see. And that brings us to something we're going to ask from the listeners. If you can check our Facebook and website and stuff, and it'll be on there. But also, I'm just going to implore you right now, go ahead and send us on our Facebook or on the comments of this episode. Send us your best ghost story for this next episode. I want to hear your scariest ghost story. I don't really care if it's true or not. Give me your best ghost story.
What do you mean you don't care if it's true?
Well, I prefer them to be true, but I'm never going to know if you're lying about it. So make it good. And I'll have a little segment incorporating that And that may be what we get from you from China. We may get your ghost story recorded. Or maybe we can do that before you leave. Do something like that.
Maybe. Not if you're going to make fun of it.
Shh, don't tell them what I'm going to do with it.
Well, I'm just saying.
I make fun of you all the time. What's the difference?
Well, I know you do, but that, anyway, I'm not going to talk about it.
It's fine.
I'm not going to taco about it.
You don't want to taco about it?
I don't want to taco about it.
Hey, did you know that taco cat is a palindrome? Spelled the same forward and back.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
I know what palindrome means, babe.
I know. Well, I got one other palindrome to wow.
Wow. Whoa.
Okay.
That's not a palindrome.
No, that's WH.
I know, but it was so funny.
O-A.
I think my favorite palindrome is race car.
Race car? It was until I found out taco cat.
Yeah, taco cat's pretty
taco
awesome.
Cat's awesome.
You're right.
It's also not really a thing, but
It is now.
So that's pretty much all we've got going in IRL.
Wait, no, we have one more.
What's that?
What's our favorite person going to be for Halloween this year? We're so proud of her.
Oh, well, she's going to be like every other kid in the world. She's going to be it for Halloween.
But see, the thing is she's not going trick or
It's
treating
gonna be Pennywise.
this year.
No, she's not. She's actually going to. We've spoken about Craig. Craig has one of the best haunted houses in our town. He goes all out every single year, and he has animatronics and the smoke machine and everything. And he's like the destination for all the kids in our neighborhood. So Lily has decided instead of going trick or treating this year, she wants to be a feature at Craig's haunted house Halloween party. So she's going to go as Pennywise, a version of Pennywise anyway, and she's going to do her crazy acrobatic stuff.
She can bend, like do a back bend, and then she can walk on her hands and her feet while in the back bend.
For a long time, she can do this.
Like just walk around the house, and it's crazy and it's freaky.
So she's going to do that all while dressed up as a killer clown and scare children. So
she's hoping she'll get candy that way because they'll drop their candy.
Yeah, she's going to go around and snatch it up if she gets them to drop it.
I think Mommy's having a little bit of a hard time with this.
Why?
Because this is her first year. Like, this is the first year of her not trick-or-treating.
Yeah. But
like, she won't, the odds of her going trick-or-treating next year after not going trick-or-treating this year is going to be very low. Like, her first
Yeah, but you were talking about, before this even happened, you were talking about having a Halloween party anyway to keep, because nobody wants to take anybody trick-or-treating anymore.
That's not the point. Her first Halloween, remember? She was a little fairy.
I remember.
What was she the second Halloween? Oh, she was
She was
Wonder
a ladybug
Pets.
one time,
No,
she?
she was
she was Ming Ming.
That's
right.
And she had pink eye and she couldn't go trick-or-treating.
This is serious. That's right. So Lily's going to be the scariest thing, walking on her hands and back bended legs. I don't know. It's going to be freaky looking, I guarantee you, because I'm going to do
I
the
think
makeup.
we should get a balloon, like a helium-filled balloon, and tie it to her waist.
That was my idea, woman. I already said that.
Oh, I didn't
So that it's floating above her while she's climbing, while she's back bend walking.
I think it's a great idea.
Spider walking.
That I came up with.
Yeah, that I already came up with like a month ago. Nicely. All right, well, this is going to be like an hour and a half long episode with the interview. So we're going to wrap it up. That will do it for episode 11 of the Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast. We're glad that
Wait, what podcast is it?
It's the Not Suitable for Worker Placement podcast. What do you think about that, Maurice? You like our new name? Maurice doesn't even respond anymore.
Maurice.
Maurice. What, were you shy? Did you have a little shyness? Maurice, you're so cute. All right, get out of here, Maurice. All right, we'll see you next week or next episode or whenever.
Bye.
With some such other things to do with board games. What an ending. Very succinct, professional-like.
Thanks again for listening to the NSFWP podcast. You can find us on the web at nsfwppodcast.com and on Facebook and Twitter at NSFWP Podcast. You can also find me on Twitter at Meeple of Madness. Come on back next week for another great episode. See ya.